What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're looking at our top 5 positional needs going into the offseason with some answers. Let's get it started. Yeah, so I'm not going to leave you all hanging on this one. I'm going to give you guys some answers for each one. One of them, I didn't put many answers. I'm not sure what I was doing there, but it's okay. I got answers for most of these. We're going through our top 5 positional needs and 2 honorable mentions, which honestly makes it even better. Because you know what I mean? Like, I like honorable mentions. When I'm watching a video and you give me an honorable mention, I'm like, well, dang, I only came here for 5. You're giving me 6. Because you know how I like to do the top 5s. But in this one, we had 2 honorable mentions, so that makes it even better. But we're actually going to do that like before the first one because I know like people like do it because it's cool. Like they do like their 4 and then they do one and then they do their last one. Now these aren't in, I mean they are in specific order I guess I would say. So we're going to start at the bottom, work our way up, and then we'll do the honorable mentions mixed in. I'll tell you when that's coming, okay? So let's get started. Coming in at number 5 is edge, okay? I put edge at number 5. Not the highest need I don't think. I still do think we have a pretty good amount of depth, but I think, you know, we could use definitely some help in this one. And what Bob Quinn said in his press conference is kind of how I would look at it too. You can't ever have enough edge rushers. You can't have enough guys that can get to the quarterback, and they're not easy to come by. Well, last season we had to deal with a lot of injuries, and like I said, you can't have too many. So that's why it comes on the list. Pretty simple. And also, if you can have some star power across from a guy like Trey Flowers who balled out last season on the edge, it's only going to make him better and the other players obviously better. So here we go. The first player that we could target is a guy like Chase Young. So Chase Young, obviously we know he's probably going to go top 5, probably top 3, probably top 2. He may not even get to us. That's the thing. So Chase Young's on here, but there's a very small chance that he comes to us, and there's like no way in heck I see us trading up. Next up will be Curtis Weaver. I know a lot of you guys are interested in hearing about Curtis Weaver. He's one of the edges that I really like. I think he'll go a little bit earlier. I've seen some projections that actually have him like 4th round to 6th round. I don't see him falling that far. I think like 2nd round, maybe 3rd round. Next up, Julian Okwara. I think he's kind of in the same boat as Curtis Weaver, same kind of time he'll go. Okwara is related to Romeo Okwara, if you guys weren't wondering. I think they're brothers, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, if you added him, then you got his brother, so obviously he's going to be 10 times better. And then finally, Josh Uche, who's from Michigan in the bowl game against Alabama. And Uche is a pretty good edge rusher. Not your best, but he's going to be a little bit later in the draft. So if you're waiting a little bit longer, I think Josh Uche would be kind of one of those players that you might want to take. Next up now, we're going to be looking at some free agents that we could also target, okay? So the first guy is Shaquille Barrett out of Tampa Bay, but apparently he kind of wants to stay in Tampa Bay. They should pay him, right? Because Barrett is a very talented player, and that's why he's on this list. All of these guys are unrestricted free agents. They're unrestricted free agents, so keep that in mind. Now, some of these dudes, they could have been signed, they could have gotten an extension, they could want to stay. I don't know. It's hard because not all of this news comes out, and there's so many players to keep an eye on. Sometimes, you know, you could be watching this video a day later than I uploaded it, and you're like, oh, well, this guy just got, you know, an extension. Well, check the date because. And if some of these are a little off, then I apologize, but I did my best to check out all of them. Next is Vic Beasley out of Atlanta. Vic Beasley, another solid edge rusher. I looked at him at the trade deadline. We obviously didn't get him, and I think he's going to be and obviously could be an option this offseason, so why not bring him in then? Dante Fowler Jr. out of the Rams, very talented, not very old. This will be a guy that's probably going to have to spend a little bit more money to get, but obviously you want the best players, and it is a must-win situation. Lions have about $50 million cap space, so why not? Let's just go do it. Boom. That's your first one. Now let's hop into number 4 where we have the cornerback position. So I put at cornerback a little bit ahead of edge because I think we have less depth here, especially with the Slay thing going on. So this is Slay's last year. No idea if he'll be here next year. If I was a betting man, I would say he wouldn't be. Also, Rashaan Melvin's going to be a free agent, and I think that leaves us a little amount of depth with a little amount of star power. So we're definitely going to have to bring in some players, whether it's through draft or free agency or both. Doesn't matter. We got to do it, okay? Now, the thing with free agency, you're getting guys that are more experienced. They can probably come in and be a little bit more ready. If you're going in the draft, you have to go pretty high in the draft or find a really good steal to have someone that can come in and serve a really big impact. Amani was a steal. A guy like Jeff Okudah would be that player that you would expect to still have an impact right away because you're drafting him so high. So looking at some of our cornerbacks on here, I have Jeff Okudah. That's how we're going to start this off because I do believe he'll be there at number 3. He should be. If you want to take him, you can. He's probably the top cornerback coming out of this draft. Next up is Lavert Hill. Now, I threw Lavert Hill on here for like a mid-round type of option. I think a guy like Lavert Hill would be around the 3rd round. And, you know, obviously, if you're filling some of the other needs on here in the first 2 rounds, then you have to wait a little bit. So I think Lavert Hill could be a solid option. Christian Fulton, who I think will go a little bit earlier. And then a guy like Keith Washington is kind of a sleeper in my eyes. 6'1", bigger cornerback out of West Virginia. I think he'll fall down the draft board, and that would be a good option for the Lions, okay? Now, let's look at some free agents here because these guys are going to come in, serve an impact. And the first free agent I have is Chris Harris. Now, I like Chris Harris because we were targeting him, at least we were told that they were targeting him during the trade deadline. And Chris Harris is 31 years old. Not that bad. I thought he was 33 for some reason. I'm pretty sure he's 31 unless that's completely not updated. But he's a solid player. He's played in the league. He's got the experience. He can come in and help out, especially if you lose a guy like Slay. You want to have someone with some veteran experience. Now, he's not Slay. He's not as talented, and he's older. So he's not like a longer-term option. But for a year that you need to win, Chris Harris could be that guy. You could actually just give him a one-year contract. Next up is Logan Ryan. Now, this dude is going to want the money, and he should. He had an outstanding year, 4 interceptions out of Tennessee. He's going to want the bling. He kind of wanted it before. So if you're going this guy, this would be like one of your highest-end free agents you could possibly bring in. And then I also put in Rashawn Melvin because he's going to be our free agent, right? So we could go re-sign him back, and I wouldn't have any problems with that. But still, I don't think that is enough if that's all you do, right? You can't just bring in Rashawn, lose Slay, and then be like, we're good. You're not good. You're not good at that situation. And if we didn't lose anything, I don't necessarily know if we have to go get anybody, okay? I like Justin Coleman in the slot. We could still have Slay on the outside. You still have Melvin. And I think Amani could take over that number 2 spot. He was balling this year. So we don't even really have to make any moves as long as we get Rashawn Melvin back and we don't move on from Slay. But I do feel like we will move on from Slay. Now, let's get into number 3, top 3. This is the inside linebacker position. Jared Davis, Jelani Tavai, Steven Longa, Jalen Reeves-Maybin. I mean, I can keep going on and on. It's okay players, but there needs to be some star power. Now, don't move on from Jelani. He's good to go. I don't know what the future holds for a guy like Jared Davis, but otherwise, I like Jelani Tavai, but I don't think we have a lot of star power there, and it shows. Okay, we need a really talented player there. Jelani Tavai we drafted in the 2nd round. Some people thought we drafted him way too early, but he played pretty well. He played like a 2nd-round pick. And I think, again, this year we could go that high for another inside linebacker. Guys that are going to go earlier are guys like Kenneth Murray. Okay, he's going to go very early. The demand is going to be high for an inside linebacker, knowing that there are some others that aren't going into the draft. Dylan Moses, I believe, is not actually going to be entering the draft, so Kenneth Murray's stock will probably even rise. But so will guys like this. Joe Bachie out of MSU, who one of you actually took one of your mock drafts, and a guy like Troy Dye out of Oregon. So I think those are all solid options. Inside linebackers, not outside linebackers, inside linebackers to pair along with a Jelani Tavai, maybe a Jared Davis, I don't know, or possibly just add some depth. I'm not exactly sure there, but you always can keep that rotation going, and maybe they take over a starting role at some point. Now, if you're looking at free agency, there's some good options. Now, the first one is a guy that we've had before. He probably won't cost as much. He isn't star power like the other guys, but he's solid. And as John Bostic out of Washington, solid player. I'd be okay with bringing him in. Not super old, veteran experience. It is what it is. I mean, he could have some depth. That's a cool pick. Next up, Kyle Van Noy, though. Kyle Van Noy, he's going to want the money out of New England. Ever since he's left us, he's been a beast. I don't know if he'd actually sign a contract to come back with us because, I don't know if he wants to. He probably has some nightmares about being over here. So you never know. But he was with Patriots, similar to the Lions style. Matt Patricia's familiar with this guy. It would make a lot of sense. He's just going to want the money. And then finally, Corey Littleton from the Rams, who I think is probably the best free agent out of all of these. He's the youngest as well. Again, you're going to have to spend some money to probably go get a guy like Corey Littleton. But again, you got to win, so you might as well do it. Now, let's get into number 2, where we have the interior offensive lineman, okay? I think this one's super important, but overlooked a lot. Now, Graham Glasgow looks like he could be out for sure. We know Kenny Wiggins, our guy, is going to be a free agent. I think we will sign him back, and then we have Joe Dahl, obviously. I think we could use some depth and a really good player there. I think we need more than depth. We need a really good players that we can rely on to protect Stafford and help this running game. If you're looking at free agency, I think a guy like Brandon Sheriff was your guy. He is a beast, unrestricted free agent, maybe one of the best available. Eric Flowers is another one that's pretty solid. Another unrestricted free agent out of Washington. Both of these guys are both really good players. They look like they both could be heading for free agency. I think they've offered, Washington has and stuff, but I don't think either of them are coming back. I'm not exactly sure on that. Time will tell. Now, let's look in the draft, though. Now, draft, I see a guy like Trey Smith as possibly being an answer. This man is out of Tennessee. He made like a huge comeback. It was a big deal. And also, the Ben Bredesen out of Michigan, okay? Not just because he's from Michigan, but I really liked him out of Michigan. He protect Shea Patterson very well, and I think he could definitely protect a guy like Matthew Stafford. And if you're going to lose on Graham Glasgow from Michigan, why not add another one? So there you go, Ben Bredesen. I think he has the versatility where he can move around a little bit. We'll leave Frank Ragnow at center, and then boom, there you go. Now, before we get to number 1, let's do our honorable mentions, okay? The 2 honorable mentions are backup quarterback and safety. I think you could have veterans at both of those. Maybe you bring back Tavon Wilson at the safety position and at backup quarterback. They asked questions about Quinn a little bit. I think this is a position where you go get a veteran this offseason. But now let's hop into number 1. This is interior defensive lineman. So the moment y'all have been waiting for, the interior defensive lineman, to me, is our biggest need. I know some people it's not, but to me it is. And that's because Snacks looks like he could retire. I think he will retire. That would not surprise me at all. The way he was talking, it made me kind of sad, but I feel like he's not going to be in the NFL next season. Not to mention A'Shawn Robinson. I don't know what his future looks like, but he's also going to become a free agent. And Mike Daniels, same situation. I don't know what his future looks like. Unless you give him for like $1 million, I don't think he's going to be a Lion next year anyways. So you're losing a lot of depth and talent. Okay, you're losing out on A'Shawn most likely, and Mike Daniels, 2 talented players. Now you have to figure out what you're going to fill in. I think your best option, hold up, my thing turned off. I think your best option is through the draft, and that is a guy like Derrick Brown. We all know about Derrick Brown out of Auburn. I think he's definitely the best option. Okay, he's probably going to fall to number 3, hopefully, and I would have absolutely no problem with taking this guy. Now, going back to the honorable mention, at safety, Isaiah Simmons. You don't have to go get a veteran. Get Isaiah Simmons. I still like Isaiah Simmons. Don't forget about that. So I think he's an option. I also think you can resign a guy like A'Shawn Robinson. I think you definitely bring him back if Snacks retires. You got a guy that's familiar. You bring in a Derrick Brown, and boom, boom, you got 2 good defensive tackles. You can't go wrong there. You're playing mostly multiple defense. You can't go wrong there. Maybe a guy like Jordan Phillips in free agency, but I think you get a guy like Derrick Brown, and you're pretty much set. So there you go. Those are my 5 offseason needs heading into the offseason. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.